Good morning. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Eugene. My name is Nancy Fisher, and I'm going to do one of my very favorite meditations um, from Mark Nepo's Book of Awakening. I need it, and I sort of sense that maybe we all could use it at this point. Mark Nepo says our greatest chance to change our life is to close our habits of mind and to open our ever virgin hearts. So I invite you to close your eyes, breathe slowly. Let your attention come to this moment. Leave everything else aside. Your coffee will be there when we finish. Focus on this moment. Take another deep breath. Imagine that what wakes in you has lived forever, and that it wakes within a soft and resilient casing of tissue that will take you wherever you want. That you have these delicate surfaces through which to feel wind and see light and sense the spirit of everything else that has lived forever. Imagine that what wakes in you has lived forever, and that it wakes within a soft and resilient casing of tissue that will take you wherever you want. That you have these delicate surfaces through which to feel wind and see light and sense the spirit of everything else that has lived forever. Imagine that once awake, you walk in a world where small creatures fly about our heads and sing, where colorful, juicy things grow on trees, that you can eat what grows from dirt. Imagine that there is always water running nearby, that you can wash the tiredness from your face as often as you like. Imagine that once awake, you walk in a world where small creatures fly about our heads and sing, where colorful, juicy things grow on trees, that you can eat what grows from dirt. Imagine that there is always water running nearby, that you can wash the tiredness from your face as often as you like. Imagine that once awake, you live in a time where there are others you can talk to about this miracle of being alive, others you can laugh with and cry with, others you can love. Imagine that once awake, you live in a time where there are others you can talk to about this miracle of being alive, others you can laugh with and cry with, others you can love. Imagine you can open your eyes and dance in a world where water can fall from the sky, that you can open your throat and song can come from it, that you can find the sun and let it warm the flower of you into being. Imagine you can open your eyes and dance in a world where water can fall from the sky, that you can open your throat and song can come from it, that you can find the sun and let it warm the flower of you into being. And now take these next few minutes and just sit in this awareness. Sit in the truth of this and breathe. Feel still. Imagine that what wakes in you has lived forever, and that it wakes within a soft and resilient casing of tissue that will take you wherever you want. That you have these delicate surfaces through which to feel wind and see light and sense the spirit of everything else that has lived forever. Imagine that once awake, you walk in a world where small creatures fly about our heads and sing, where colorful, juicy things grow on trees, that you can eat what grows from dirt. Imagine that there is always water running nearby, that you can wash the tiredness from your face as often as you like. Imagine that once awake, you live in a time where there are others you can talk to about this miracle of being alive. Others you can laugh with and cry with. Others you can love. Imagine you can open your eyes and dance in a world where water can fall from the sky, that you can open your throat and song can come from it, that you can find the sun and let it warm the flower of you into being. Now continue breathing gently. And when you're ready, open your eyes and receive that it is all true. It is all here. It is all now. And I'd like to close with a quote from Marianne Williamson. I just love this. Joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are. Namaste.
Good morning. I am grateful to have you here today at Center for Spiritual Living. I've got a little helper here and it's about a half a second behind me, so it's very distracting. So I'm going to put it down where I can't see it or hopefully hear it. Anyway, this is Center for Spiritual Living Eugene, and we have a very special day planned for you today. It is the final Sunday in June. And way back when, we had a plan to bring Reverend Dr. Melissa Felipe and Reverend Z. Egloff here for a weekend to have a fabulous, powerful, wonderful, fun weekend together. And then in March, the pandemic happened. And so we still have Reverend Dr. Melissa Felipe and Reverend Z. Egloff, who are going to be part of today's service, but they're going to be coming to us live from Santa Rosa, California, through the beauty of technology. So just be patient. We'll have them for you in just a few minutes. We're going to do our regular opening. I am delighted to be part of this New Thought spiritual community, this New Thought spiritual teaching, which grows out of Emerson and his work. I, as an English major, studied Emerson for his poems, and wasn't until I got into this teaching that I discovered his essays, and I'm just totally taken with them and the work that he did. And this is the basis for every organization that is considered New Thought, which includes religious science or science of mind, which is what Centers for Spiritual Living are now called. There is also the Unity School of Christianity. There are also Unitarian Universalists, and the Christian Science all claim their roots in that area. We are basically of the idea that God is all there is, that God is the essence and the intelligence that lives behind everything, that it is this one power moving through each of us that creates this world in which we live and creates our community. So I'm grateful to have you here today. Our mission at Center for Spiritual Living Eugene is to inspire minds, open hearts, and empower lives using the principles of our teaching, the science of mind. We do this because we know that spiritually empowered people live richer and fuller lives. And the whole idea of our teaching is to help people live truly richer, truly fuller lives. About 100 years ago, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, wrote a declaration of principles. He was just asked, what is it that we believe? And it's been broken down into basically about 12 or 13 principles. Today we are doing lucky number 13. And that is the one on self-determination. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that our life is God. It was interesting to me one time where somebody asked me, well, I don't think I've ever heard of that science. You know, do you guys believe in God? And I smiled at them and I said, actually, we believe God is all there is. So yeah, we not only believe in God, we believe God is the source, substance, and supply of everything. And they looked at me and they said, well, that's good, I think. And I said, yeah, that is good. I want to thank Nancy Fisher for that beautiful, beautiful opening treatment. Her words from Mark Nepo, her words from Marianne Williamson. Really heart-opening and deeply touching. And I'd like to call Nancy back now to do an opening treatment for us to set the tone for today's talk by Melissa and Z and their work on why bad things happen. So Nancy, we're ready for you to give us a treatment.
I'm ready to give you one. Nice to see you. So we speak our spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer, in the first person, because there's really only one of us here. So I invite you to take my words as your own if that feels comfortable to you. There is only one. In this infinity of life where I find myself, I know there is only one power, one presence. This one power, this presence, is energy, and it lives through the forms that it creates. The energy that is in my body is the energy of this one power and presence. It lives through me. Its love, its joy, its peace lives through me and finds expression through me. And this is true of every form in this universe. All are expressions of the one. And the one lives and breathes and moves through that form. And I choose to give that energy life through my actions, through my words. I am choosing to be here today, totally and completely present. I open to the words and the music of Reverend Melissa and Reverend Z. I open to the ideas that they present. I open to a new way of looking at whatever is going on in my life. And we all have plenty going on in our lives at this moment. There are so many ways we can look at an issue. And I choose to look in a new way today. I choose to open my mind and find a new way. I ask and direct spirit within me to open my ears to hear that which is for me alone. I am present. I am fully, fully present. And I am so grateful to be here now. I allow this to be my way. And I allow this to be my truth. I release this word to the powerful, creative, limitless law that is infinite mind. And I allow this to be, and so it is.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was beautiful. We have a practice, and I'm going to ask Liz to bring the the affirmation slide up now. We have a practice each month of doing an affirmation every Sunday. We do the same one week after week. We say it together so that as we hear it out loud, as we read it at the same time, we begin to take it in and get it a little more deep each week. This is the final week we are doing this with this affirmation. Next week is a new month, and we'll be starting a new affirmation. So if you will just listen to me the first time, I'm going to read this through once, and then you'll join me with the, yes, it is up there, so yay. So, I am awake and aware in this moment. I bring my intentions, my actions, and my thoughts into alignment with the one, as only I can. I speak my life into being from love and peace. And let's just say that together, even though we're each of us separate at our homes, let's say it aloud because it is speaking it out into the world together. I am awake and aware in this moment. I bring my intentions, my actions, and my thoughts into alignment with the one, as only I can. I speak my life into being from love and peace. There's only one of us. We are a universal presence. We are a universal energy. We are a universal essence. And yet each of us is that one individualized. So even though we are one, we are in unity, we are not the same. We are diverse and different. We each, as only we can, bring God into experience in the world. And so I am grateful to be part of a community that knows this. What I'm also grateful to be part of is a community that, when I lived in Sonoma County for 8 years, almost 8 years, I had the pleasure of meeting Melissa Felipe when she was just a musician. She hadn't yet begun her ministerial path, and I am so delighted to have her with us today with her beautiful partner Z in bringing us music, message, and a wonderful, wonderful experience of this teaching. So I invite you to please welcome into your home and into your hearts the beautiful Melissa and Z. Hey guys, I love you.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Big hug, big hug.
Yeah, indeed.
Virtual
Big
hugs.
Woo. Good morning.
Good morning, CSL Eugene. We are so pleased to be here. When I was a kid, I heard this song. It said, I know you didn't bring me all this way to leave me. I didn't believe in anything then. Who brought me? Who left me? I didn't know. I didn't care. My MO was so low. So low. I couldn't feel your help, your hand, your holy waiting. When we met, I wept, finally aware of your help, your hand, closer than my anger or my longing. You met me where I was, said it's never too late. I am always here. I know you didn't bring me all this way to leave me. Now I know you brought me all this way to love me.
There has never been a time you let me down. Oh, never. I've heard it said I can turn away, but you turn with me, magnified in me. I see that every time I stumble, you carried me. When I was bound, you set me free. There has never been a time you let me down. Oh, never.
I celebrate you every day, except when I don't, when I forget. I slip back to solo alone, so I don't know the shape of your grace. I can't find you anywhere. Then I remember, and there you are, pressed so close that every breath is a return to you.
Every breath.
I know you didn't bring me all this way to leave me.
There has never been a time.
Now I know you brought me all this way to love me.
There has never been a time you let me down. Oh, never. I've heard it said I can turn away, but you turn with me, magnified in me. I see that every time I stumble, you carried me. And when I was bound, you set me free. There has never been a time you let me down. Oh, never. when I was bound. You set me free. There has never been a time you let me down. Oh, never been a time
When I was sick, you were there. When I was scared,
never been a
you
time.
were there.
There has never been a time
When I gave up, you were there. When I got up, you were there.
Yeah, there has never been a time.
All the time, you were there.
Never been a time.
All the time, you are here.
There has never been a time you let me down. Oh, never.
Thank you to Reverend Linda for having us back. We're so happy to be here, even just virtually. We're here in Santa Rosa, but we're here with you, and we're thrilled. And thank you also to Liz Callahan for being our AV team this morning, getting us all hooked up and all plugged in. So our question today is, why do bad things happen? Why do bad things happen? Well, there's actually a great philosopher who has weighed in on this subject. Perhaps you've heard of him, Dr. Seuss. So Dr. Seuss says, when bad things happen, we have three choices. We can let them define us, we can let them destroy us, or we can let them make us stronger. Now we're going to tweak with Dr. Seuss a little bit. We're going to say, define us, destroy us, or deliver us. Deliver includes strengthen, but it also has some kind of spiritual oomph to it. We're also going to tweak Dr. Seuss a little bit more, and we're going to say it's not so much a choice of define, destroy, or deliver. It's that we go through phases when we're in the midst of something that appears to be initially a bad thing. Being defined initially is not necessarily bad. It means we've broken denial. We've defined there's an issue, there's a problem. I need to look at it. I need to define it and define my relationship with it. The next phase, sure, we can allow ourselves to be destroyed by this bad thing, but we are metaphysicians. We are new thought peeps. We know better, right? We know that we can use this as an opportunity to destroy our old beliefs, to destroy our old thoughts, to destroy the old version of ourselves and emerge delivered into something new. Right now in the world, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. In our country, we're in the midst of looking very closely at racial equity, right? And we're still in the define and destroy phases of both of these things. And maybe in your own life, either because of these things or because of something else, you are also in the middle of being defined and destroyed by something, right? So what we want to look at today is the define, destroy, and deliver, the full spectrum. And to do that, Melissa and I each are going to share a story, a personal story of those three: define, destroy, and deliver. And Melissa is going to get us started. What do you think?
I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna slip into a portal in another dimension, and I'll be back. Bye.
So when I was growing up, I wanted to be a rock star. Now, I'm not talking metaphorically. I want to be a rock star. Like, I just wanted so bad to be a rock star. And actually, not just any rock star. I ached to be Janis Joplin. Yes, I am aware that Janis was a drug addict who died a tragic and young death. And yes, this was actually a little bit of a warning of things to come. I followed in Miss Joplin's footsteps by diving into music at a young age and diving into drug addiction, unfortunately, at a young age. After college, I moved to the Bay Area to pursue my dreams in music. And after quite a few years of frustration, I met this guy. For the sake of the story, we will call him Tommy. Tommy was from LA. He worked in the business, and he was working with a very high profile act in the business. And so he had connections. He knew all the people to know. And he believed I could be a star. He not only believed I could be a star, he thought I should be a star. And he was determined to take me there. I was good with that. So I was going to relocate to LA. He was going to work me and introduce me to all the right people and then hook me up and get me signed. And I would live happily ever after as Janis Joplin Jr. Yeah. At that point, I had been living in San Francisco for a few years, actually, and still partying. So I was still working that line of the Janis Joplin dream. And I was singing in a really great blues band in clubs in the city and teaching music out of my little studio apartment in Noe Valley. So I gave notice to the band. I gave notice to my apartment manager. And I gave notice to all of my students because on March 1st, I was moving to LA to have my dreams come true. It was really exciting. And then in December, some things started happening that were weird. So the first thing was that Tommy told me this story. And it was a story about one of my very oldest and dearest friends. And I knew it wasn't a true story about them. But I didn't understand why he would tell me this story. It was a very innocuous thing to even tell me the story. It meant nothing. It was very odd. And I just kind of thought, I guess I'm confused. And I let it go. It was not a big deal at all. And then a couple weeks later, another weird thing happened. So now we're getting towards Christmas. He and I had said right after the holidays, we would get together, celebrate Christmas, start working. And he would fly me to LA, and all I had to do was give him all my travel parameters when I could go and needed to be back, and he would book my flight. So a little later, he gave me my itinerary, and my itinerary said that I would be leaving before I requested and coming home after, just a little bit on either end, but it was over, like not what I had asked for, very clearly. And when I asked him about it, he said it was because of holiday travel availability. Like, it made sense to me. I was like, okay, Christmas, holiday. All right, I'll just make it work. So a couple weeks later, I had a gig. And after the gig, I was hanging out with my best friend, Brian, and getting high, actually. So I was still trying to be Janis Joplin with the getting high, but anyway, he said to me when I was just telling him how frustrated I was and bummed out about this travel schedule that I now had. And he was saying, you know, Melissa, that does not sound right to me. There's so many flights from SFO to LAX every day. I think you should go home and call the airlines and just check this out. Well, my stomach fell, but I did. I went home. I called the airlines, and even at that point, which was now really close to when I was going to go, they still had flights that like would have gone with the parameters of what I'd requested. So now I knew he had lied to me. I was crushed. I was confused. I was really confused. Like, why would he lie to me about this? And then, of course, what should I do about it? And I tell you, I was angst-filled. I was really now in that first phase that he was talking about. This defined me. It was my whole reality. It was all I could think about, right? I talked to everyone I could about it. And I came up to new information as I was talking to people about it, which is there's something called a pathological liar. Pathological liars lie for no reason. That started to make sense to me of all Tommy's little stories, right? Like, oh, well, if there's no reason to lie, then he would tell me that story. He would do the thing about the airline flights. And then I started seeing a bunch of other things that I then realized he had probably lied to me about. They were like oddities, right? But pathological liars don't need a reason to lie. This was like the answer that clarified things for me. Only then I still had another problem. Like, now what do I do with that information, right? I was really not sure. Move to LA now still? And I had one particular conversation with a very dear friend that clarified it for me. I said, you know, I feel like this is my lifelong dream knocking on my door. And if I don't move to LA, I'm telling it to go away. And she said, oh, really? Does your lifelong dream include having a manager you can't trust? No. That was my answer. So now I couldn't do it. I could not leave everything and move to a new place, entrusting my life, my career, everything to this person that I knew I couldn't and shouldn't trust. It broke my heart to walk away from it, but I knew it was the right thing, you know? And making that decision took my life off the rails. I was on a track and now, poof, here I was. Phase 2. This was now destroying me and my dreams. Then a friend called me. So what happened after the destroying of my dreams, I was just depressed. Nothing sounded good. Nothing sounded right. Nothing sounded interesting. Nothing was calling me. I was grieving. I was lost. I was really lost for a while. And then my friend from Hawaii called me. And she said, you know, it sounds like a really good time for you to come and spend some time visiting me in Hawaii. Well, that was the first thing that had sounded like fun. So I did. I rearranged everything and I thought this would be a really good opportunity for me to go there and get some clarity about what's next for me, because I was lost about that. And while I'm there, I know I'll do a cleanse, right? So I go to Kauai for weeks and I decided that while I was there, I would do this cleanse. And the cleanse would include not having any drugs or alcohol. So when I was there, you might imagine, I noticed how hard it was for me to not have any drugs or alcohol. It was way harder than I'd imagined. I did not know how to feel my feelings. The whole trip was really intense. After I returned home, I also returned to using drugs and alcohol, only now something had shifted. Because now I noticed what I was avoiding. The feelings, the pain, myself. And what I really wanted so much was the option to use, to party, but without the need. I wanted the option and to be free of the need. So I tried that. I tried that really for a while and really hard. And what happened is it didn't work. Big surprise. I actually started using earlier and earlier in the day as time went on. But finally, after many months of struggle to stop, on July 31st, 1989, now 30 years, 10 months, and 27 days ago, I got clean. Woohoo!
Yay!
Phase 3, deliverance. Because becoming clean and sober completely altered the course of my life again and made it better. And then a couple years later, I found Science of Mind, which made it even better, the metaphysical world and that. And now, of course, with hindsight, it all seems so clear. So thank you, Tommy. Thank you for lying to me. Thank you for the heartbreak. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And thank you, Janis Joplin, for the initial seed planting that led me down the very road that I took. And thank you, Spirit, really, seriously, thank you, Spirit, because allowing me to find my perfect expression of this rock star dream was the greatest gift of my life. It was an up-leveling version, right, for my soul. And now I've gone from singing the blues in bars to singing about the joy and the freedom of a life of spiritual awareness. And I get to do it with the love of my life, Z. I went from wanting for just the sake of my ego's craving to a life of giving and serving, of doing what I love and what I can for others from the fullness of my being. And it's way more fulfilling and fun than the other dreams I used to have. Sometimes disasters are not what they seem. Bad things are blessings. And I'm not saying that hard things don't happen, because clearly even this story and harder things than this certainly for people happen. They do. But bad things are blessings, because no matter what it looks like, Spirit has not brought us this far to leave us. Spirit has brought us this far because Spirit has us. Spirit is inviting us with these bad things to a new level of good if we are willing to have the aspects of our own being destroyed so that we can be delivered. Z?
Yes. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, so now I've got one. So when I graduated from college, I was an English major. Didn't realize Reverend Linda's an English major as well. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had no idea. There's actually a joke. I don't know if you've heard this, Reverend Linda. There's a joke about English majors. The philosophy major asks, what is the purpose behind all existence? The chemistry major asks, what is the molecular formula underneath all existence? The English major asks, would you like fries with that? Yeah, so that's what I felt like when I graduated. I felt like I was qualified to speak English and perhaps deliver fries, but I wasn't even sure about that, right? I found myself at this point, I was living in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, all the way on the other side of the country, and I found myself working on a farm, which was actually a really cool change for me. I discovered spirituality at this point, so I was following Spirit, and Spirit said, go work on this farm, so there I was. It was owned by a gentleman named Hollis Lovell. He was in his 80s at the time, and he hired a young guy to run the farm. It's a 4-acre vegetable farm on Cape Cod. But soon after this young guy started to manage the farm, he left. So Hollis, the owner, said that I should now run the farm because we'd gone to the same college. Now, I knew nothing about farming, but I said, okay, and I was following Spirit, right? So, okay, I'll do that. It was a pretty small operation because it was just 4 acres, and so I needed to hire just one person to help me. And I had a best friend then, I'm going to call her Jane, my best friend Jane. I'm the kind of person who always has one best friend, a lot of friends, but one close best friend. Jane was my best friend, and I needed to hire somebody, so I brought Jane on board. And most of the year was just the two of us working together. We would plant the crops, we'd weed the crops, we'd harvest the crops, and we'd turn them over. So we spent a lot of time doing physical work, but we were able to kind of basically talk all day. She was also into spiritual practice. So there I am, working outdoors with my best friend, talking about spirituality. Like, does it get any better than that, right? So I bet you're saying, Z, well, what about the bad thing? Oh, well, it's coming. So about 6 years of this wonderful, blissful existence, I developed chronic lower back pain, like bad, like so bad I couldn't work anymore. All I could do was lie in bed with pain 24/7. Yeah, it was awful. Talk about being defined by something. It took over my whole life. And in fact, eventually I had to go on disability. So I'm like seriously now defined by this thing. And it actually quickly reached the place of threatening to destroy me because the pain was so intense. I got pain medication, but it knocked me out so much. I'm like, that's no way to live. But also I felt like it's no way to live with being in pain all the time. And so at this time in my life, I was actually suicidal. It was the hardest thing I'd ever gone through and still is. I just didn't know what to do, and I felt like I could not go on. I did go to certain modalities for help: acupuncture, chiropractic, massage, and all those things combined finally brought me to a slight lessening in pain, enough that I was able to go back to work. So I still remember that first day back at work, and I'm there, and there's Jane, because she's been there in my absence. And Jane says, "Well, I have to tell you something." I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "I'm in charge of the farm now. Hollis put me in charge." And I said, "You mean like all the time?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, why?" And she said, "Hollis says your pumpkins are too small." She wasn't speaking metaphorically. I was not using enough chemical fertilizer as much as Hollis wanted. I was using organic fertilizer, so that pumpkins weren't big enough, so Jane's in charge. And I said to Jane, "Well, when did this happen?" And she said, "Oh, it was a few months ago." And I said, "You didn't tell me?" She said, "No." So now we're really moving into a deeper destruction, destroy part here, because now I've lost my job. I can still work there, but I've been demoted. And I've lost my best friend. Because even though we're there working together, she doesn't want to talk to me anymore. She's really uncomfortable with what's going on, doesn't want to process it, even though I try. So at this point, I have nothing. I'm still in constant pain. I've been demoted, and I've lost my best friend. All I had at this point in my life was spiritual practice. That was it. I had prayer, I had meditation, I had study, and I found a spiritual community because I needed something. Right? And through that, one day, someone in my spiritual community handed me a book. She said, "You might want to check this out." And the book was called Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno, Sarno, a physician. He's no longer with us on this plane, but he was through Columbia University on the East Coast, and he discovered a mind-body technique that healed back pain. So at this point, I was willing to try anything, even though it sounded a little, I don't know. After a year of being in constant, unending pain, within a few weeks of starting this technique, my pain is gone. So I've now been delivered in one aspect, in the physical aspect. But I still am working at a job. It's not working anymore. I've hit a dead end now, with job and relationships, my friend, everything. So I started to think, well, what do I want? I've got nothing here. It's over. It's ended. Dead end. What do I want? So I did some research, and I was thinking about this. How did we do research back in the day when there was no online? Like, how did I even discover this? But I realized what I really love is spirituality and psychology. And so I did research. I think I went to the library and discovered that the places that offered programs in spiritual psychology were on the West Coast in California. So I flew by myself to the West Coast, to California, the Bay Area, and I talked to the people. I got an interview. I got in. I found a place to stay. I flew back to Massachusetts. 1 month later, I am driving by myself across the country in my little Honda Civic. I didn't have a radio, so I had a little boom box beside me on the passenger seat playing tapes of gospel music. Because spirit, what was what was getting me through this. I knew no one on the West Coast. I'm all by myself. I'm 30 years old at this point. I'm doing this thing, and spirit was what was getting me through. And when I look at my life now, everything in my life started to get better. All the good things started with that define and destroy part. My health, so the work of Sarno that I discovered, ended up still serves me to this day. Has healed chronic fatigue syndrome, about 80% of the physical maladies. It's a mind-body technique, very much in alignment with science of mind. I love John Sarno. So that work is still serving me. My health is better than it's ever been. My vocation reached a dead end there, went to this program that deepened my spiritual work and eventually led me to ministry, which is more fun and more perfect for me than anything I ever would have imagined. And my best friend now is Melissa Felipe, who's like the best friend ever. So when we look around at the world and see these things that seem horrible to look at, that is the time to cling to our spiritual practice, to cling to our spiritual sight. Because where we see chaos, Spirit sees opportunity. Where we see destruction, Spirit sees new beginnings. And where we see that Spirit has left us, we know that Spirit is with us, right here with us, every step of the way. I know you didn't bring me all this way to leave me. Now I know you brought me all this way to love me. Now I know you brought us all this way to love us. All of us. And so it is.
And so it is.
So we're going to do a song, and we would love for you to join us. It's got a spoken word part, and it's got movements too. So it goes like this. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Say it with me. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love. And where it comes in the song is a little tricky. I'm going to say, hush, little baby, because there's just this love. So you have to pay attention, which, as we all know, is a hallmark of spiritual practice. So there you go. Here's something that isn't true. There aren't 24 hours in a day. I mean, there are, but only because we say so. Because thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, someone stuck a stick in the ground and watched the shadows to try and measure the arc of a day. And don't get me started on this trip called time, the trippity-slippity thing that doesn't exist in the first place. I ain't no Einstein, but I tell you what, there's only one thing that's ever stuck. It doesn't need a stick in the ground for me to trust it. Hush, little baby, because there's just this love. Love is the only truth. And the only truth is love. Again, love. Love is the only truth. And the only truth is love.
When I let go of all that I believe, what is left is true. Release the stories of things I see. All I see is you. In the spaces between starlight, in the shelter of the dark, in the memories of sweet goodbyes beating up my heart. It's you. All that is you.
Here's something else that isn't true. What we call love, right? There's a guy at work, you don't even know his name, but you're sure he's the one who can satisfy that need that hurts and howls and wants what's real until you find out he's married or gay or not gay and can't give you anything but need and more needs. See, love doesn't ask. Love only answers, and the answer is always yes. I don't know much, but I tell you what, there's only one thing that's ever stuck. It doesn't need anything for me to trust it. Hush, little baby, because there's just this love. Love is the only truth. And the only truth is love. Love is the only truth. And the only truth is love.
When I let go of all that I believe, what is left is true. Release the stories of things I see, all I see is you. In the spaces between starlight, in the shelter of the dark, in the memories of sweet goodbyes, the breaking of my heart. It's you. All that is
Together, love is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
All that
is the only truth, and the only truth is love. Love is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
All that
Is the only truth, and the only truth is love.
You
is the only truth. So it is.
So it is.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Thank you.
Oh, you guys, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys, I want to just hug you both so bad. Fabulous message, fabulous music. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so
I
much.
love you.
So now it is time for us to have our time of offering, and we're going to ask Liz to bring up the giving slide, and also Nancy to come back and do the blessing of the offering as practitioner.
So I take advantage of the many ways that I can give my gifts to this center. And I know divine love in me blesses and multiplies our gifts. Blessing this center, allowing it to continue to do its good and excellent work. And it blesses me, allowing me to see myself as someone who has enough to share. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you. And now we're going to have announcements. We're going to move right into announcements. This week we've got just a couple of classes that'll be starting in July. The first one is by Angela Alcantar, and it's a book study begins on Mondays, July 6th, and runs through the month of August on creating a world that works for all, based on the book by Abdul Sharif. I just purchased it, and it's a fabulous book. You can sign up online, go to our Facebook page and sign up to be part of that group. Next, I believe there is also a slide for this thing called You, which is a class that Angela is going to be teaching on the home office site. So you go to Centers for Spiritual Living, but if you go to our website, Angela has a link for the class, this thing called You. It's Homes at his most accessible. It's a really, really good book. It is an accredited class. It will earn you credits towards becoming a practitioner if down the road you decide to do that. I recommend it highly, and Angela is an excellent teacher. And then I'm going to be doing module 2 of the Keys to Consciousness, and that's going to be Keys to Spiritual Practice. And each week, we're going to be meeting 3 weeks in a row, discovering a different practice each time. It'll your choice of Wednesday nights at 6:30 or Friday mornings at 10 a.m. The class runs about 90 minutes each week. You take either the Wednesday night or the Friday morning. It's not a twice a week class. It's just the opportunity to take either one. And as we had said, the anniversary is being determined. But one of the things that is happening is we are setting up, I sent out an email, but if any of you are open to the idea of being part of a strategic planning group to, number one, help us come up with the ways we can come back together and meet in person, and number two, really discern what it is that is ours to do as a spiritual community. How do we found the next 50 years of this spiritual community? What does it become? And it takes each of us to do something in that. So if you are interested, contact the office and talk to Nikki, or contact me on my Facebook page, however works for you. Know you are loved, know you are welcome here. Know we are so grateful to have you with us from wherever you are and from whenever you watch. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Be careful. Happy Pride Day. And we'll be celebrating the interdependence next week. And we're done. It can turn off now. Please.